Next we should look at syntax. Syntax is the punctuation of a programming language. So just the same as the way comma, question mark are syntax in English language. So let's look at some syntax. Each instruction that you want your program to perform should be on a line of its own. As a general rule, you should only put a semicolon at the end of every line, which doesn't already end in a curly brace, an open parenthesis, or an open square bracket or comma. You should make a habit of indenting everything between open and closed curly braces. Indenting makes your code easier to read and helps you keep track of what code is within each curly brace. Leaving blank lines has the same effect. It helps you to see what your code is actually doing at which point. Java will still be able to read your code fine if you don't leave white space, but you probably won't be able to. Some of the best programmers out there won't be able to either, so this isn't something that you should only do while you're learning. It's something that you will likely do for the rest of your programming career, even if you use another language. Curly braces are used to group several lines of code together. We'll talk more about them as we progress through the lessons, but I just want to mention that the open curly braces can either be at the end of a line or on a line of their own. In this series I will always put them at the end of the line, but you can use whichever makes the most sense to you. They are identical as far as Java is concerned. Next up we have comments. If you're just looking at code, even with white space, it can still be difficult to understand what's going on. To help you with that, you can add comments to your code, which basically means you can add any text you want, so that when you come back to the code in the future, you can easily understand what's happening because you've left a note for yourself in plain English. There are two ways to add comments in Java. If you just want to add a one-line comment, you can just add / to the start of the comment. It doesn't necessarily need to be on a line of its own, but Java will consider the double slash to the end of the line to be a comment, so you can't add it in the middle of some code that you want to use, for example. If you want to add a comment which you know is going to be a couple of lines long, you can add a / to the start and an * to the end of your comment. This will tell Java everything between those 2 points is a comment, and it shouldn't be executed as code. It's quite common to see an asterisk at the start of any lines within these 2 points. It's not really needed, but it does help to show that the text is all one big comment at a quick glance. Something that you might notice straight away from the code on screen is that Eclipse changes the colour of comments to green by default. So you can also spot comments in Eclipse just by looking at its colour. If you're using a different program than Eclipse, the colour may be different, but most programs will at least change the colour for you. So I've already mentioned that comments are useful for writing reminders to yourself about the code, but another very common reason for using comments is testing and debugging, both things that we will cover later. You can see that from the third comment, the fourth arrow, that we have commented out a line of code. If the slashes were not there, the program would tell us that the total was 5, because we would be overwriting the total already calculated. And so we can use this to see whether certain lines of code cause us problems. Again, as I say, we'll be looking at debugging in much more detail later on. There are lots of operators in Java, but you won't use most of them until you're writing much more complex codes. So I just want to go over the more common operators now. So first up we have the assignment operator, which is just a single equals sign. You can see at the first arrow we are assigning the number 6 to the variable number 1. This is not the same as saying the variable number 1 is the same as number 6. It is saying that variable number 1 is number 6. So whenever we see a variable called number 1 in our code, we can think of that variable as actually being the number. If you look at the second arrow, you can see that we're doing some basic addition. But one thing that might look a little strange is the fact that we have the total on the left as the equals sign, and the calculation on the right of the equals sign. This is the same when you're doing any calculations in Java, no matter what the calculation is. And that is because we are assigning the results to the variable, just like we assigned 6 to the variable number 1 earlier. As far as the actual operations go, we have addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. But we also have the percent symbol, which will tell us the remainder after one number has been divided by the other. That operation is actually called modulus, which you might remember from your math class. But to give you an example of how it works, if you divide 5 by 2, you get 2 remainder 1. So this operation would tell you that the answer is 1, because that would be the remainder. If you divide 4 by 2, you will get remainder 0, so in that case it will give you the answer 0. This can be useful if you need to know whether a number is odd or even, for example. With all of these possible operations, we need some order of precedence, and Java follows the same rules as you might have learned in your math class, which can be remembered by BEDMAS, brackets or parentheses, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction, and if there are 2 or more operations of the same level to be calculated, they are calculated left to right. Finally, let's take a look at concatenation. This is used to combine multiple strings together, but it too uses the plus symbol, just like addition. I know that this is confusing and that it doesn't really make much sense, but Java understands that you're assigning a result to a string, and so switches the meaning of the plus symbol in this line.